gentlemen, welcome to another episode of our Men to Men podcast. I'm Malik Carey along with my co-host Brett Carroll. Brett, what's going on, man?
Hey, Malik, how you doing, bro?
Yo, man, I'm good. Listen, audience, you know we can be found here every week, every Monday. The Men to Men podcast on Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Again, we can be found on Facebook, our mentomenpodcast.com, YouTube, Instagram. Brett, what's going on? What's up, bro?
Hey, man, it's my favorite time of year. You know.
Oh yeah, what's going on?
Well, first of all, the weather's getting better. Secondly, it's NBA playoff time, and one of my favorite times of year is the NFL draft is coming up. So
we got a lot going on.
So this is my time of year, my brother. My time of year.
Yeah, tell me about your Nets playing. Your Nets not in there, are they?
Well, they're soon to be eliminated.
Oh, okay.
But you know.
Yeah, my Warriors in trouble, man. So, yeah, Draymond got suspended. Another, just acting crazy, and just like you said, that time of year, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is exciting times, and but hopefully the Cowboys do something this year in the draft. So we'll see. So what's up, man? What we talking about today, bro?
Well, I was. Week or so ago, the weather was really, really nice, and I'm walking in the park, and I come across a softball field, and so I'm playing softball with these high school kids, and I had a great time.
Oh, really?
And then on my way back to the car, I noticed an elderly couple, and they were really heavy.
Oh, wow.
And they had a really, really hard time crossing the street, man, and I felt really bad about it. And so I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm saying, wow, man, it's really sad to see people who are, overweight and, morbidly overweight. So I thought today, man, we might talk about what obesity is and the impact and the effect that obesity has on people. I'm talking about high blood pressure, better known as hypertension. I'm talking about high cholesterol, better known as dyslipidemia. And, even diabetes and heart disease and heart attacks and strokes and all that stuff. So let's talk about obesity, bro.
Yeah, man. It is something that is really prevalent in our communities. Among African Americans, nearly 48% are clinically obese, man. And that includes 37.1% of men. But here's an alarming number that I came across. 56.6% of our black women are overweight, and it's something that's hard, man, and we really don't talk about it enough. That obesity has affected our communities, man, and it's something that we would laugh at when we were younger, call someone fat, which is never nice, never polite to be able to do that. But it really is something that impacts a lot of us. It impacts us through it impacts our mental health. It impacts our emotional well-being. It impacts our physical health. High hypertension, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, you name it, man. So when we think about obesity, we're not just thinking about someone that's, a fat. We're talking about people who this thing called obesity is affecting every area of your life.
Yeah, and obesity is one thing, which is basically being overweight, as you said. But there's what's more alarming is this thing called morbid obesity, and when you're morbid obese, that's what leads to the diseases that unfortunately affect us, our
More
communities,
than anybody else.
Exactly, and the number one impact that obesity has is this thing called hypertension, or what we all know as high blood pressure. And basically, of course, we're not doctors, we're not in the medical field, so we're not going to get too deep into this. But high blood pressure is basically, when you take your blood pressure and you're 140 over 80, that's hypertension or high blood pressure. But when you get up to 180 over 120, that's severe high blood pressure, and that's in the area where you need to go to the ER or go to the hospital because you're at serious danger at that point. So talk about the causes. So we talk about the different things that ultimately cause hypertension, and obesity is one thing, and smoking is another thing, and
alcohol consumption.
Exactly. And we were talking a few minutes ago about the need to exercise. And so, being sedentary and having a lack of physical activity in your life is a cause of hypertension. Too much salt in your diet. You mentioned alcohol. Something that I read where if you drink one or more drinks a day of alcohol, not only are you considered alcoholic, but you're putting your body physically at a serious risk. And another big thing about another big cause of hypertension is stress. That's huge. And think about the different things that stress us out. And obviously, stress is a major cause of hypertension. And of course, there's family history and genetics.
Yeah, genetic factor, environmental factors. What people are eating. That's such a big thing, and environmental factors play a big part in it also.
Absolutely.
The lack of nutritious foods, and where you're eating at, and what we've been conditioned to eat. So that all plays a part in it.
Oh, there's no question, no question. And just having access to healthcare, having access to proper healthcare, having access to to education, to allow us to, or give us an opportunity to be aware of what we're doing, and also teach us the things that we should be doing. And again, the sadder part about this whole thing, we're talking about obesity, it leads to hypertension, and untreated hypertension, as we all know, it affects the heart, it affects the brain, affects the kidneys, affects the eyes. And if it's severe enough, you can have heart disease and you can have a heart attack or stroke. And so,
and heart disease, let's just really talk about that, man. As you said, how basically you said how that old couple, watching them affected you. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is this health thing, man. I got two uncles and a grandfather that didn't make it past 60. I had an uncle who died at 36 behind hypertension and heart, had a massive heart attack. I had another uncle who at 54 died of a heart attack. He was morbidly obese. He's over 300 pounds, but you thought he was just a big guy, but he was obese. And by the time he was in his early 50s, he was operating off of probably about 40% of his heart. And so this thing is personal, and we don't realize it. And the way he ate was great. I mean, I remember one time he said to me something, and it was no turning back from him, but he said, "Nephew, don't ever stretch your stomach." Like he knew.
Did you know when he said that? Do you know what he meant by that?
I knew what he meant by that. Yeah, I totally knew what he meant by that.
Okay. Real quick thought on that. So here's what I was told. The bigger your stomach, the more you need to satisfy your appetite.
Exactly.
And so when you see a big person, the thing that, and I hate to say this, but you realize that, okay, they need to consume a certain amount of food in order to satisfy their so-called
craving,
appetite,
right.
Their cravings,
Yes.
their appetite.
Right.
And so it's hard for a person who's overweight to not get more overweight and go from being a little heavy to maybe being obese to maybe being now, morbidly obese.
Exactly. And, and we don't want to talk about this, and we don't talk about this, man, enough, is really food addiction.
Yep.
That's something else.
What's lifestyle?
It is lifestyle, right? And I was always taught that you shouldn't eat more than your fistful, right? Whatever that looks like, and really being able to eat healthy and do those things. So when we talk about this thing, I mean, this is something. The diet that we eat, I'm sorry, I don't eat pork. People, you don't eat the what? No, because I understood early on, and I'm very healthy, and thank God I was able to educate myself and have a mom to educate me after watching her brothers and her father die like this. She got serious about her health, which made us get serious about our health. But one of the things that we talk about is how are we eating? What are we putting in our bodies? What are we doing to deal with this and combat this thing? Because some of it is genetic. And so how do we, we can, I believe, and I've seen it because I'm 52, and I had a father who had diabetes. I don't have it. I had family members who had hypertension. I don't have it. And it really was me saying, you know what? I'm not going to put the things in my body that allow that. And so when my diagnosis came back about high cholesterol when I was younger, I changed my eating. And those are the things that we need to really start paying attention to. And I love what you said about really being able to have access to food and access to healthcare. Because you know what? I'm the type of brother, I go to the doctor. I want to know what's going on. And so really going to the doctor, finding out about those things. And those things are important, Brett.
Yep. And you mentioned something a minute ago about high cholesterol. Talk a little bit about high cholesterol and what that's all about.
Yeah, so basically, when we talk about our high cholesterol period, our total, and this is really our LDC, I believe it's a total of 240, right? And that's that's a perfect number. And then,
I think when you hit 240, I might be wrong. I think when you, all of us, I guess, for the most part, have an annual checkup. And,
right.
and when you get to 240 total cholesterol,
right.
you have high cholesterol.
Right.
And I think when they look at your LDL,
right.
And if that's around 160.
So the healthy levels are 170, right? That's what you want. You want to be around that number. When you get over the 200 level, that's when you're really getting into really high cholesterol. And then there's two cholesterols. Remember, there's a good cholesterol and a bad cholesterol. And we want our bad cholesterol to be under 160, 150. So we want to look at those numbers. And when we do that, and that's about going to the doctor and being, really, so there's an LDL and an HDL. So really understanding those numbers, that's what we want to be able to do. And so we want to know what our normal range is. And, so less than 200 in the LDL, and then,
Well, for the LDL, you want to, I think LDL is, if you're under 160, you're good.
Right.
And if you're over 160, you have high cholesterol. Total
yes.
cholesterol is, I think that number is around 240.
Yes.
So when you look at total cholesterol, if your total cholesterol is 240 or more, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Yeah, higher anything less than 200 LDL, and then in 200 to 230 is where you want to be. Total, anything over that 240, you're in trouble. And so we really want you to be in that 160 to 170 range, period. Really, and talk to your doctor. We're not doctors again, but really understanding your numbers and being able to understand that stuff is very, very important. And so, when we talk about, eating fatty foods, saturated fats, all of those things, eating a bunch of sugar, doing the things that, really push that cholesterol high, is really something we need to look at. And what does it lead to? Again, we talked about it. Heart attack. That's number one, because it's clogging your arteries. Because what the cholesterol is doing is, I do know this, is really, it plays a part in, building fat against the walls of your veins and stuff like that. So really understanding that, and then hypertension, diabetes, and then, a stroke, right? So these are things that, again, as African Americans, especially African American men, we suffer for more than anybody, any other race.
Well, here's the whole thing. You're 100% right. And we're not doctors. And the most important thing is to get annual checkups so that they can measure your total cholesterol, which needs to be under 240. So it can measure your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol,
yes.
which needs to be under 160.
Yes.
And so they can measure your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, which you want that to be at a level that's high enough, because you need to have good cholesterol to balance off your bad cholesterol so that your total cholesterol is where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. But the thing that you talked about, eating, exercise or lack thereof, eating the wrong food, those things can create plaque in the arteries, like
yes.
like you talked about, which leads to the heart attack, which leads to the stroke, which leads to the erosion, if you will, of your arteries and veins. But the problem, Malik, is that we don't know. It's silent. So what are, what are some of the signs and warnings and some of the symptoms that
Yeah,
we
man,
might look
really,
for in order to figure out whether or not we got high cholesterol?
Yeah,
or not?
really. One of the things that you want to talk about really is chest pain. We just had the at the Family Healing Center. We just did CPR training, and one of the things that I found out and didn't realize it was a heart attack looks different in women than it does in men.
Absolutely.
And I just found that out. A woman doesn't get the same chest pains as a man gets. It's more in her stomach and stuff like that. So it may hit her faster than a man because a man gets it in his chest and it hits him really fast. And so I didn't realize this, but I found that out, doing this CPR training. But, shortness of breath, extreme fatigue, numbness, in extremities, slurred speech. These are things that we really have to look at. And if you are experiencing some of these things, and really understanding what my weight is, I'm 6'3", and, the scale says Malik should be at about 215. Well, Malik ain't 215, right? Malik's more like 225. But I know I'm comfortable at this weight. I'm not obese. I gotta, and so when I look at the scale, okay, that's what the scale says, but I know what my cholesterol is. I know that I'm healthy enough to be, hey man, I'll probably never be 215, but I'm okay at 220. I'm okay at 225. But knowing your numbers, knowing what you're comfortable at, where you're not fatigued, where you're not sluggish, understanding that, if it's shortening, going to the doctor, really, I think, when you get any sign, anything that is doing that, especially if you're struggling with weight, get to a doctor, work out a plan so that you will, when those signs come, if those signs come, get you on top of it.
Yeah, you know what? You said something that's pretty interesting. You said you're 6'3", you're 225, and you're otherwise healthy. I'll tell you what's very interesting about that. Clinically speaking,
I would be.
You're overweight.
I'm overweight. Right?
Clinically speaking, and one of the things that I learned about 10 years ago when I was in this field, I was kind of blown away by what is considered. I was blown away by what is considered obese and what is considered morbidly obese. At my height, I'm supposed to be 185.
Right.
And because I'm not 185, I am clinically obese.
Really?
And therefore, I'm at high risk for hypertension. I'm at high risk for high cholesterol. I'm at high risk for diabetes. And because I'm at high risk for those three metabolic syndrome factors, I'm at high risk for heart disease and even possible heart attack.
Wow.
Simply because I'm more than 185 pounds at my height, which is 5'11".
Right.
So the reason why that's important for people to understand is even if you see yourself as, hey, I'm not that overweight. Hey, I'm not that big. My body structure or my skeleton, my body skeleton suggests that I'm okay. I'm not that bad. It's important to go to your doctor. It's important to understand what your weight is, and it's important to understand what your BMI is. Your BMI is body mass index. Yeah. And what that does is that actually measures from a weight, height standpoint of view, and from a male, because it's different for men than it is for women. It basically tells you whether or not you are at a healthy weight or not. So your BMI, body mass index tells you whether you're at a healthy weight or not. So we strongly suggest that you know what that is. And depending upon how tall you are, depending upon whether you're a man or a woman, and depending upon how old you are, will dictate what your BMI is. And if your BMI is over what it's supposed to be, then you're at risk for hypertension, high cholesterol, and diabetes.
That's pretty interesting because when we I just looked it up. My ideal weight should be to between 176 and 216.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Now, the good thing about you, though, is, and again, this is I'm being redundant, but this is important. You also got to know your family history.
Exactly.
You know your family history. You just talked about the history that you've had with heart disease in your family. So you're smart enough to, well, first of all, you're fortunate enough to be aware of it, but you're smart enough to do something about it.
Which is stay at a doctor's office.
And obviously you eat right based on what you're telling me, and I know you exercise.
Yes.
And so diet and exercise, and we're going to get into treatment in a few minutes, but diet and exercise is
So
critical.
important.
It's critical.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, we might as well just roll into that now.
Yeah, well, let's go.
In order to manage your obesity, in order to prevent yourself from getting hypertension or high blood pressure, in order to protect yourself against getting high cholesterol or even diabetes for that matter, it's real important. 3 words. 2 words, lifestyle. And in this case, lifestyle change for those of us, me included, who are at high risk for these different disease entities. And lifestyle change really comes down to basically 2 things: what you eat and what you do. And so you've heard this over and over and over again, that diet and exercise is critical to our physical health. It's critical to our mental health. And so from a physical standpoint of view, to minimize the likelihood of getting hypertension, to minimize the likelihood of getting high cholesterol, you have to watch your salt intake.
Big time.
Especially for those who have high blood pressure or hypertension. People who are hypertensive, they're very salt sensitive. You can't cook food with salt in it. You should not be eating food with salt in it. You shouldn't be eating the fatty foods. You shouldn't be eating the processed foods. You shouldn't be eating the foods that are high in saturated fats. Because if you have a steady diet or steady intake of these things, you're feeding into hypertension. You're feeding into high cholesterol. And on the cholesterol side of things, you have to really monitor your dairy intake, because dairy products lead to developing plaque on the arteries or inside the arteries. And it's the plaque that thickens the artery and makes your blood, or prevents your blood from getting to the body where it needs to get to, especially the brain and other critical organs. And that's how we get strokes. And so what you eat is critically important, and what you don't eat is critically important. So you want to consume more potassium. You want to eat more fruits. You want to eat more vegetables.
You want to stay away from McDonald's, Burger King, Popeyes,
and KFC.
KFC.
Which is where I'm going when I leave here.
Popeyes chicken sandwiches are great, but they're not good for you.
Right.
And so, and everything in moderation, but when if I'm struggling with something, I want to really look at it, and diet is so important. And I'm talking about, I don't even want to use the word diet. I heard this guy say the word in diet is DIE, right? You're dying or something. No, it's, you said it earlier, it's about lifestyle. It's really about understanding what lifestyle looks like to me. I eat for life. I eat for health. I eat for, I eat when I'm hungry. I don't just get up and just start eating. I practice fasting. I do the things for my body that are healthy, and again, because you can exercise all day, but if you go finish exercising, you finish burning 2,000 calories and I go put 5,000 in my body, then the exercise just didn't mean anything. So it really is about understanding, the foods that we're eating, shopping at, people who are in our audience, going to Whole Foods versus going to some of these other places. And I'm going to put a plug in for this app. It's called Yuka, Yuka. And Yuka is an app that you can scan your foods, and it'll tell you 1 out of 100, and it'll come out bad for foods that are bad for you. It'll come out, poor for foods that are poor for you, and it has a rating, and then good, and then excellent. I only eat whenever I go to the supermarket. I'm literally scanning good and excellent. I don't eat anything that's not poor, So, and it's a great app that they have now that really says that, water intake is so important. I'm putting these sodas and these juices in the garbage. Again, listen, soda is the worst thing for you if you're obese. It's really the worst thing for you, period. But, when you're talking about obesity, you're talking about something that when you're putting these sodas and these chemicals in your body, what is it doing to your body? And knowing what you're putting in your body, starting to be ingredient friendly. One of the things I do, some of the young ladies at the office, when they bring food, I go over the ingredients with them. And they're always on me, boss, why you on me? Because I want you to understand you are what you eat. And if you can't spell it, you shouldn't be putting it in your body. If it's got lilac oxide on it and acid and this and that, why am I putting something that says acid in my body?
Right.
So understanding why diet is important, understanding, the exercise component, and understanding, about it's really about being healthy.
Right. And the other thing too, there are different. You talked about the app, the Yuka app, and that's a great app to measure the quality of the food that you're eating. But there's a bunch of diets out there too that are healthier diets because they're diets that are mainly comprised of fruits and vegetables and healthy kinds of foods. The Mediterranean diet is one of them, and there are many others as well. But even beyond diet and exercise, which are the two most critical components, they talk a lot about not smoking. It's important to minimize your alcohol intake. And I think the other thing that's critically important is being able to manage stress. I mentioned that earlier in the episode, but I want to talk a little bit about managing stress, because I believe stress leads to smoking. Stress leads to the overconsumption of alcohol. Stress leads to eating disorders. So I believe that if you are able to figure out a way to manage your stress, you can help yourself go a long, long way in minimizing the likelihood of hypertension or high blood pressure, or minimizing the likelihood of high cholesterol. And so one of the ways that they talk about, and when I say they, you're talking about the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, they talk about putting together a plan that focuses on allowing yourself to have pre-planned pleasures. Say that 3 times. Pre-planned pleasures.
PPP.
You need to have daily breaks. You need to have weekly pleasures. And you need to have monthly and quarterly activities that you can plan, that you have to plan, so that you can look forward to. And so when you're going through a tough day, when you're getting through those stressful points and times throughout your day, and we all have them, every one of us has those, you focus on giving yourself that daily break. You focus on the thing or the things that you're going to do in the given week, the things that you're going to do that you've planned for the month, and perhaps something that you plan quarterly, because it's a mind over matter thing. It gives you an opportunity to feel good about something. It gives you an opportunity to look forward to something. And having good thoughts and pleasurable thoughts offset stress.
Yeah.
Breathing offsets stress. Taking breaths, stretching offsets stress. So when you're stressed out, stop, breathe, walk away, and stretch, and mentally put yourself in a place of peace, mentally put yourself in a place of pleasure, mentally put yourself in a place where you have experienced joy and peace.
Yeah, and you know what? Practice good self-care. I mean, there's a word that's coming out now that's being used a lot. But understand what self care means to you, right? Whenever I'm stressed, I feel it, right? I start to feel it in my body. I feel it, and I'm like, you know what? I just got to step away for a little while. I may have to just, hey man, put a do not disturb on the door, and go do some meditation, mindfulness meditation, and lean on others. Talk to someone. Hey, if you're a believer, hey man, right now I'm feeling a little stressed. Can we pray? Really lean on others. Talk to other people. Hey man, I'm really stressed out today. Maybe we just go take a walk. Do something to get outside yourself. You can't manage stress alone. You got to be able to talk through it. And then if you see it coming up sometime, go seek some help. Go talk to someone. Our job stresses, if you're a single mom or if you're a mom or a dad, we carry levels of stress and we carry it in our bodies. And again, we use these things to eat. Some people medicate by eating. So if I learn how to manage my stress, do the things that we talked about, you'll be on top of your game.
Yeah, one of the biggest things to overcome stress is to walk, to jog, to run. Some kind of physical exercise, some kind of physical exertion. There's something that chemically happens in the mind that triggers a chemical reaction in the body, and those things working together relieves stress. So managing stress is something that you have to plan for, and it's also something you have to actually implement. And so we're talking about thinking about things and planning things out that are pleasurable, but we're also talking about physically doing things that allows your body to chemically change or chemically react so that you can push stress away and get back to a place of normalcy and a place of peace. And the other thing, Malik, you mentioned this before, critically important, and we're talking about lifestyle change here. We're talking about lifestyle changes that help us prevent and or treat hypertension and high cholesterol. You got to drink a lot of water. I was at a seminar that you sponsored about a month ago.
Oh yeah, the Warrior Within.
Yep, yeah. And one of the guest speakers talked about taking your weight and cutting your weight in half. And whatever half of your weight is, that's the amount of ounces of water you should drink a day.
Yep.
He went into a very long explanation about why you do it. It made a lot of sense to me. But I started doing that. And it was about a month ago, I believe I lost 6 pounds.
Wow.
Simply by drinking half of my weight in water every day.
Wow.
Simply by stop drinking the soda. Simply by stop drinking the fruit juices that I like drinking. I lost 6 pounds by just doing that.
Wow.
And now I'm trying to get to the point where now that the weather's breaking, I can walk a little bit. Walk starts to turn into a jog. And so now I'm getting the exercise that I need. And I'm starting to incorporate the kind of diet I need to incorporate in order to get healthier. Finally, before you talk a little bit about some other ways to help treat hypertension and high cholesterol, what has been talked about, and again, it's something that kind of surprised me, but think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Sleeping well is critically important.
I was getting ready to say that, Brett, rest.
Yeah.
It's so important. Getting a good night's sleep. I literally just had a conversation with someone about going to sleep with a TV on in their bedroom. And it's like, I'm always tired. And I just asked them, I said, do you go to sleep with a TV on? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, you shouldn't. They're like, well, I can't fall asleep without it. I said, but you're not resting. I said, because there's noise that's going on. And she's like, you knew that? I said, yeah, because you shouldn't sleep. When you go to sleep, your bedroom is for resting. And your body gets to a level of REM sleep that you need. And if you have music or things playing on, your body's not resting because your body rests when it's quiet. And if you're waking up tired, if you're going to sleep and you're sleeping 8 hours and you're still tired, there's something wrong.
Well, you know what? First of all, that's a great point, and you're 100% right about that. But if you're sleeping 8 hours, first of all, God bless you, because most Americans don't sleep 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are sleeping 8 hours and you are still tired, that means you wake up agitated, you wake up irritated, and you wake up less optimal mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. So to Malik's point, you really want to go see a psychiatrist or a sleep specialist, or you're not, well, I'm not going to say a sleep apnea specialist, but certainly a psychiatrist, and certainly somebody who specializes in sleep therapy, because sleeping, getting a good night's sleep is critically important to your physical well-being. It's critically important to your mental well-being. And to Malik's point, if you're going to bed at night and you're watching television for 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed, it's going to be hard to get a good night's sleep. Mm-hmm. If you're going to bed at night and you got the computer up and you're doing your research and you're doing your searching and you're writing reports and you're checking email and all that kind of stuff, the bright lights from the television, the bright light from the iPad or from the cell phone or from the laptop, all those things mess with your mind. It messes with your sleep pattern. Sensory, which affects your sleep pattern. And so you cannot get a consistent, proper, full night worth of rest, which is 8 hours if you're lucky, but even 6 hours for people who have insomnia or people who have troubles consistently sleeping. The goal would be to get you to 6 hours.
At least 6 hours.
At least 6 hours. And so what was suggested to me, because I don't sleep well at night, was to not watch television.
You should be setting yourself, what they say is about a half an hour to 45 minutes before you go to bed, prepare to go to bed. And one of the things that you want to do is no TVs, no tablets, no nothing, but at least 45 minutes before you go to bed. If you want to read something that's going to be not on the tablet, but a book or something, and then prepare to go to bed. So when you're in the bed, TV's off, everything's off, and even if your mind wanders a little bit, you'll fall asleep. But when you're, like you said, I know me, if I go to sleep right after a game, especially if I watch the really intense game, I'm not going to sleep right away because I'm hype about the game or whatever. So I try to, even with that, one of the things that I used to do, especially when I needed to work, if I don't have to be here at a certain time or do something, now even I know my body so well that on the West Coast games, and this is just me, what I've learned to do is I'm not going to stay up past a certain time. I'll tape the game and catch it in the morning because I need a certain amount of sleep. And so that game ain't paying me no bills, right? And I got to be up and I got to be alert for work. But if I get up in the morning and I know my time, right, I need to be in bed no later than 10:30, no later than 11, sleep by then, by 11:15, 11:30 to get a good night rest because my eyes open at 5:30 every morning, period.
God bless you, bro.
Right?
I don't get up that early.
So
I don't go to bed that early. I don't get up that early. But the other thing, and I think you hit the nail on the head, very important.
Know your body.
You got to know your body, but you also got to create what they call a sleep schedule.
Yes.
It's pretty much speaks to what Malik was talking about. You really want to set yourself up so that you go to bed at the same time every night, so you can wake up at the same time every day. If you are able, the sleep specialist will tell you, if you're able to get yourself on a sleep schedule where where every single day, every single night, you have a routine where you're sleeping 8 hours or 7 hours or 6.5 hours or 6 hours, whatever it is, when you wake up, you're much more functional physically, you're more functional mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, because that's how important sleep is. So we just got finished talking about the different things, the different lifestyle changes that you can make that could help you prevent yourself from getting hypertension or getting high cholesterol or treating it if you have it. Now, the other thing that is critical is if you do have hypertension or high cholesterol, you got to see your healthcare provider. You absolutely have to to just be proactive about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. You know, one of the things that you want to do, I mean, when we talk about, again, we are not healthcare providers ourselves. We are just people who care. But one of the things that you do, you want to definitely want to always, I go to the doctor. That's something that's alarming. And I do want to speak to this. I was talking to my doctor. My doctor, she's Asian. And she was saying something that's very alarming. And she said, "You black men don't go to doctors." I said, "I know, we're working on it." So, you know, really understanding that. Talking to a cardiologist, you know, I remember going to a cardiologist when I was in my 40s. And he said, "You're too young to be here." And I told him my story. I said, "Listen, uncles died, dad just, I need to know about my heart." He was like, "Man, you're the most proactive person." I said, no, seriously. And, you know, they put you on the treadmill. And, you know, again, I was able to do it. And I still do a stress test every year. But understanding that, you know, going to a nutritionist, understanding, you know, what that is about. Go see a nutritionist. If you can afford that, some insurance companies pay for it, but know what that's important. Go to a hypertension specialist, get a support group, talk, you know, family support. You know, especially if you're struggling. We're talking about the morbidly obese and the obese, you know, and don't be ashamed of it. I want to talk about that. There's no shame in this. The shame is when you don't do anything about it. And
Yeah, and I just want to ask a question. Why is it that we as African Americans are least likely to seek medical attention, least likely to go to doctors? What do you think that's all about?
Well, I've heard we don't trust doctors. I've heard that. I just don't trust the doctor. Some of us can't afford it, you know, because we don't even have the healthcare to go. And then, you know, it's just taboo. You know, I think going to the doctor is, you know, again, I think there's a trust factor. And I've heard that from several, especially older people.
Yep.
You know, but again, you know, it's taboo, and again, you know, we talk about it all the time. Some of this stuff is generational, man.
Yeah.
You know, and so cultural. Yeah. So, you know, my finger falling off.
Right. But that's the reason why. Yeah. But that's the reason why I bring it up. And I think it's critically important. Like we've said it over and over again. We're not doctors. We're not clinical people. We're not medical experts. But we have these conversations because we know how important health is to us and our communities.
To our families.
Yeah, we know how important it is.
And you guys are our family.
Yeah, and so we're talking about. We're urging our community to find a primary care doctor or an internal medicine doctor. Get checked out regularly, because as we all get older, we're either not exercising the way we need to, and we're not eating the way we need to. And so what we're doing is we're subjecting ourselves to these diseases that we're talking about.
Yes, and then also, listen, I mean, go to the doctor, but I want to talk about even using supplements. You know, taking your vitamins. You know, vitamin D. As African Americans, I learned something that was very important. Vitamin B. I went to a doctor one day. I'm like, I'm a black man. What am I doing with low vitamin B? And they were saying because of our pigment and stuff like that, we don't get enough sun because the seasons change. But vitamin D, you know, making sure that you're taking vitamin D pills. Again, we want to be able to get you to understand why health is important. You know, when I get that blood work done, is to see what's going on so that I can, if I need to take a supplement, if I need to do something to take care of myself, because I'd rather pay for it in supplements. I'd rather pay for it in vitamins than have to pay for it when I'm 60, 70 years old down the line in somebody's doctor's office. And so the preventive, right? We're talking about preventive.
That's the word. That's where I was going.
Yeah, preventive, you know, prevention is important. And that's what we're trying to do right now. You know, talk it out, plan it out, allow for accountability. You know, hey, one of the things that I do, I have an accountability partner. I work out every day, and my accountability partner works out a day, and we set a goal. And every day I have to screenshot and with my Fitbit on or my watch on how many miles I've run, what I've done, and I'm serious about it. So I'm not, and I send it to him and he sends me his. So we know, all right, listen, I'm learning stuff about working out. Don't miss 2 days, right? So I may be tired and I may be fatigued, but I may take the day off, but I'm not going to miss tomorrow, right? Because if I miss tomorrow, then I'm going to get lazy again. So we really want to understand, don't miss a day, right? If you miss today, make sure you pick it up tomorrow. But again, being preventive medicine is the best medicine.
Right. And doctors will tell you, healthcare professionals will tell you it's a lot easier to prevent hypertension than it is to treat it. It's a lot easier to prevent high cholesterol than it is to treat it. It's a lot easier to prevent obesity than it is to treat it. And so one of the biggest advantages about going to a hospital, about going to a healthcare professional is getting checked up so that, as Malik said, you know what's going on and you put yourself in a position to say, okay, I'm going to stop doing this so I can prevent that. Or I'm going to start doing this so I can treat that. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you understand what's going on so that you know what you got to do in order to make yourself healthier. And that's the reason why we have these conversations. So I just want to, as we close out here, I just want to talk about, just remind you that obesity, and the reason why we called this conversation, this episode, we centered around obesity, is because it's the beginning of our bad health. And as Malik said earlier, African Americans are the most obese people in the country.
It's in understanding that, and I'm gonna talk to my sisters. Understanding what you guys are going with, it's very important. And so when we talk about it, and this is just what about 4 of 5 African American women are overweight or obese.
Yeah, and that's not us calling you out. That's not us screaming on you. That's us saying we love you, we care about you. Go to your healthcare provider and find out what you can do. Mentally program yourself to change your lifestyle, change your diet, get into some kind of exercise routine. You're not going to run a marathon right off the bat.
No.
You're not going to become a weight trainer.
Just start by walking.
Just start walking. Just start doing something.
Right. If you know what, if I can take 10 steps today, and you know what, I'll set my goal for 11 steps tomorrow. And I'll set my steps the next day for 12. But start somewhere, and you realize, as Brett talked about, drinking water, taking a walk, you can lose 10 pounds like that. And so, again, it's not about the pounds. It's about really understanding what the lifestyle is so that I can do something about the lifestyle. And the lifestyle is, we want you to be healthy. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about health. And the next couple of weeks, going into May, we're looking at Mental Health Month, which is right up my alley. And, we really want to just focus in on us as men, as us as women, taking care of our health, taking care of our families, taking care of our communities. Because when we get to do that, we get to thrive. And, I'm tired of going to, and I'm saying this for real, man, I'm tired of going to too many premature funerals.
Yeah. And that's what's going on. First of all, we're aging, number one, and that leads to more diseases the older you get. The good thing is you're living longer. The bad thing is that you're getting more diseases, thrust upon you. Mm-hmm. So it's real important to take care of that. But just remember this: if you can control your weight, you can minimize the likelihood of blood pressure. You can minimize the likelihood of hypertension. Of high cholesterol. You can minimize the likelihood of diabetes. You can minimize the likelihood of heart disease or heart attack or even strokes. It all starts with being at your optimal weight or close to your optimal weight. Find out what that is so that you can do the things that you need to do in order to take care of yourself.
Yeah, man, I want to just say to our audience again, thank you for listening. Please remember to check us out every Monday. We can be found again on Men to Men podcast. .com, and that's men to men podcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and SoundCloud. And so thank you. Please like us, share your thoughts and opinions. And if you like our discussions, give us some feedback. Until next week, God bless you. And Brett, peace.
Peace out, bro.